Travis went good, so got snow out there today, so I can't go running. Judge Campbell has again refused to do anything. The obvious order is easy, and she just will not do it. She is a traitor to America. So then I went and checked the church, see if they came up with anything from last night. They didn't. And so I found, however, on the side column that Ballard has reported on the 8th by, what's her name? Sydney Walker. Put a featured story in the church news. Topsfield, Massachusetts, prequel to Joseph Smith's story helped lay groundwork for restoration. And she got that from Ballard talking. And so, should I read it to you? Or should I just tell you? I'll just tell you. The Smith family comes from Robert Smith, and he moved to Topsfield, Massachusetts. I won't go into his history, but he came in 1626 from England, and yeah, the Smith family cemetery is where this marker is being placed. See, the new monument sits near another Smith marker placed in the cemetery in 1873 under the direction of President George Albert Smith, counselor to President Brigham Young. What? And first cousin to Joseph Smith, Sr. What? What? What, Sydney? President George Albert Smith. What? Is there another one? George A. Smith, LDS. No, not Smith. LDS. Okay. There was another one. Oh, man. Yeah, George Albert Smith Sr., that 1900s. But this one, George Albert Smith, June 26, 1817. Okay. He served in the Quorum of the 12 Apostles and as a member of the First Presidency. So a cousin to the Smith family. Interesting. And obviously he was left out as Brigham Young was able to convince him to go with him rather than Smith staying with the family. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, when you put president before George Albert Smith, you gotta clarify. Alright. And so, it's the Ensign Peak Foundation, not Ensign Peak Associates, which is a different organization of the church. But again, this Ensign Peak Foundation, same process. Church receives money through it from donations. The church then sets aside 10% to invest through a separate financial investment company with a portfolio along with it. All the same processes they tell us. And so then we have Asiel, Samuel II, Samuel I, and then Robert. There was a couple of things that I picked out of here that was disturbing to me. And it's because I've done the research on church history, and this doesn't do the research on church history. And it has to do with Ballard saying that these guys are believing blood, which that kind of wording is very white supremacist. Let's see where Smiths settled in Smiths were born there. He's Boston. I'm trying to find the initial comment that led to he has watched that family and that blood as it has circulated from its fountain to the birth of that man. Okay, it was Brigham Young who brought out the white supremacist statement. Got it. Makes sense now, Ballard. Dumbass. Yeah, here it is. President Ballard said, "When you see the kind of faith that was manifested early on in the preparation for Joseph Smith to be Joseph, we have to realize that that family was well in the eye of the Lord. I stand in awe of the absolute unwavering faith of that branch of the Smith family. They were believers. They knew the Lord." See, now that means that they were religious. And so remember that. See, they talk about Robert. He was an indentured servant, worked as a tailor, married Mary French, had 10 children. Nothing about religion. Nothing about his religion. Nothing. Samuel Smith I, carpenter by trade, and held offices of public trust, so he was government, but nothing in regards to religion. And so what is Ballard using religion for? And then Samuel II, an advocate in the Revolution, active in the community and civic affairs, selectman, town clerk, chairman of the Topsfield Tea Committee, Boston Tea Party, member of the state legislature, captain in the local militia, and delegate for provincial congress. No religion. Do you see where we're going with this? Ballard is twisting the history for religious purposes when he needs to go into detail about what their religion is. If he's going to say that they were, let's see if I can find it again. They were believers, they knew the Lord. See, government is not connected to religion. So how are they to know the Lord unless it has to do with their religion? What is their religion, Ballard? He's not saying. And then Asiel. Okay, Asiel, landowner, Cooper. So interesting. That's where he learned, Smith Sr. learned how to be a Cooper, because they mention him as a Cooper here. And so, key in church history. for how he obtained copper plates. And Revolutionary War soldier, elected to local offices, married Mary Duty, they had 11 children. The good old days when women were strong and not having just token children in their life. You try to have 11 kids. I understand that after number 6 or 7, they just pop right out. That's what she told me out in Connecticut while I was on my mission in the New York mission. They had 13 of their own children. 13! And then they had an extra 3 that they adopted. My goodness. And yeah, she was just saying, yeah, after about 6 or 7, they just pop right out. I'm just a young boy missionary. She's telling me this. The first 3 children. Okay. And Asel, still nothing. Asel moved his family back to Topsfield to work the land and pay off his deceased father's debts. Oh, wait a minute. We have Doctrine of Christianity for Samuel II. Samuel II's passing was noted with the following in the Salem Gazette. Because remember, the Smith family were involved in the Salem witch trials. It may have been Samuel II that I was trying to remember the other day on the other video I did. He was a sincere friend to the liberties of his country and a strenuous advocate for the doctrine of Christianity. Which Christianity? Doesn't matter, it's all the same. I'll get you back to Christ. So, had to put that in there. But I don't see where his debts are brought out as to why he had debts. And there's Turnbridge, Vermont, which gives you the clue as to the religion and which Christianity branch. Asel prophesied. Something would come forth among his posterity and would revolutionize the world. Yeah, that was in a much later letter. It was after the fact, I even believe. I knew that someday something would come forth from his posterity. Something. He always knew that God was going to raise up some branch of his family to be a great benefit to mankind. And so again, you're a little lacking on religious detail, Ballard. And so here's Joseph Smith Sr. And pay attention to what Ballard leaves out, or Sydney leaves out, because she doesn't know. So she has to rely on Ballard, and so that's what I'm sure she's doing here. Joseph Smith Sr., the third of Asel and Mary's children, was a cooper. And if you don't know what a cooper is, that makes barrels. Particularly for farming, it's necessary because you got to put the food into the barrels to store. It's also used for gunpowder. And with gunpowder, you can't use metal. You have to use copper. You can use wood, but the metal helps secure it firmer than just regular wood. Nonetheless, copper. And if you're familiar with the description of the plates, they were such that the weight could not have been gold. And so if it's not gold plates, because they would have been over 200 pounds, copper would have been the more accurate measurement. Still, it would have required somebody big and strong to be running through the forest at night with a 50-pound weight. Though, I know all about running with a 50-pound weight. It's actually a 100-pound weight. Oh, dear God. Well, it's not, I guess it's a 50. More, I haven't measured myself, weighed myself in a while. Maybe I've lost some of it. Of course, it's going to get all gained back if we get snowstorms. Gotta assemble my bike. He met and married Lucy Mack in Turnbridge, Vermont. And they had 10 children, the fourth being Junior, who was born in Sharon in 1805. Oh, I wonder who he becomes. Failed harvests and economic hardships moved the family between New Hampshire and Vermont. Are you sure? Where in New Hampshire? Hello? Where? Where? Next to which college? Where? With a certain doctor who got Hiram into the college? And how did they pay for the college and the surgery? How? See, they're missing a whole bunch of crucial information for church history that would fit everything together and make sense, but he's leaving it out on purpose. By the way, they were Congregationalists. In 1816, see, they totally missed the Congregationalist branch off of Nathaniel Wood and the whole Wood scrape incident, crucial in understanding church history. In 1816, they moved to Palmyra. They all went together? No! Senior and Hiram went ahead to Palmyra. The rest had to try to sell off what they could, and then they had to walk to Palmyra. And so, in 1816, they settled on a farm. That's the way Sidney wrote it. No, Sidney. It was in 1818, and after Smith Sr. became the Master Mason of Canandaigua, New York. See how Sidney is perpetuating the deception about church history. See, this, faith promoting, oh yeah, oh wow, Smiths are awesome, Smiths are great. And they are, but there's information missing that is crucial, essential, necessary to church history, and they're purposely leaving it out. And Sidney, I can understand, she's clueless. She's going off of what Ballard says. She's taking notes and all this stuff. But Ballard, no. He's clueless too. He purposely doesn't want to dig into the real church history because he's afraid of what he's going to find. And so, yeah, the farm, this is the area where Joseph Smith experienced his earliest visions. Are you sure? Publish the Book of Mormon and organize the church. Are you sure? Again, the details of church history are essential. because otherwise Joseph Smith's canon history, and canon means scripture, official doctrine history, and the Doctrine and Covenants passages, section 3 and 10 specifically, are not understood and interpreted properly, because it didn't happen. And so why did they write it the way they wrote it? You ever heard of code? It's used for wartime. You have to sneak papers cross enemy lines to get to another friendly allied base. And so if you get caught, you have to have things encoded so that the enemy, doesn't recognize it as enemy communications, and therefore they let the messenger go on, not knowing that they're a messenger for the enemy's enemy in the war. And so this is what is so frustrating. As a Mormon growing up, believing blood for the church, and then finding out the truth. And if you don't understand what that means to me, what that means to anybody who learns the truth, not hearsay from other people saying things that are contrary. No, I did the research. I went, oh, okay, he was in Tunbridge, Vermont. Well, what religion was he? And so I had to find out. Oh, it says he's involved in this New Israelite religion. Well, what are New Israelites? Oh, they're Congregationalists. It's a branch off. I'm hearing knocking. It's too early in the morning to be knocking on people's doors. Anyway. And so, and it can't be John. He's supposed to be in bed 2 rooms over. He shouldn't be hearing me. And and now I lost my train of thought. And so all these details, the names of his children. Alvin was first. It didn't occur to me when I first was writing my book on church history, and it occurred later, so I had to import it into the final version that was combined together. So the first segment that I published didn't have that information. It was in the final combination of all the segments that I did. And I noticed a distinctive naming pattern as a result. And all those kinds of things need to be done if you're going to get to the truth about the true history. You can't leave anything out, taking it for granted, or just assuming it has no bearing on history. This is what is required for true scientific study for history. And the church just refuses to do it. They only let in this information only because of LDS Church historians who they had to excommunicate and fire from BYU on September 6th. And which then leads to it sort of begs the question even, which is what's it called? It's too early in the morning. Can't think of the term. So begs the question what the church knows and what they're purposely leaving out and what they're afraid of having released. Because if you're aware, the church finally has come out and said, yeah, Joseph Smith translated by the gift and power of God by looking into a rock in a hat. A rock. I'm sorry, Joseph Smith had just one rock? What? That confuses Mormons enough as it is, but it's still a lie. He had two. Remember? Urim and Thummim. Two rocks. And so as a Mormon, this is, it's, I can remember the struggle, the conundrum that I was going through as I was starting to recognize that the church leaders are frauds and that they're con men. I remember as my understanding of scriptures from all the research that I'd been doing, as I was able to identify the false doctrines at the local church level. You know, somebody in church makes a statement, no, that goes against that particular scripture and that doctrine of Mormonism. And but to hear it from the church leaders, you know, it first began recognizing the 70 and women. I'm sorry, but Mormon women don't know their doctrine either. And so I tried to use that as a justification, that they're still trying to learn and grow in the church and in knowledge of the true gospel. And I still distanced myself from understanding that the prophets also were false. And then certain apostles, Oakes, Ballard, started bringing up blatantly false information. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, maybe it's something that I need to research. Maybe they're twisting the words in such a way that the interpretation can justify them as still being God's prophets. All those types of excuses and apologetics for them to try to claim that they're still legitimate prophets. I still remember those days. And it all falls apart when you throw everything out that you've been led to believe in your life, and you start from scratch and you assemble the facts. And from the facts, that leads to what actually happened, the big puzzle picture. And it's hard for people to do when it's a topic that they're involved with. That's why police officers, you see it on all the shows, all the cop shows. Oh, you're too close to this case. You need to step down. No, he needs justice. You know, all those situations. But it is the case that Mormons really can't be the ones involved in studying their own history because of that. Because, you know, Sydney, perfect example. She's clueless. You know, she, in this statement, failed harvests and economic hardship moved the family between New Hampshire and Vermont. And so we assume the whole family moved together. They didn't. In 1816, they moved to Palmyra and settled on a farm in nearby Manchester. What? No. Sydney, this is wrong. This is incorrect information on church history. Mormons can't get upset with me because I'm saying that it's wrong. Don't Mormons want to know the real history? Are they wanting to perpetuate a lie? See, that frustrates me with Mormons. The Mormons literally want to perpetuate lies. They don't want to know the truth. They want to be faith promoted. They want to be believing blood. And so, with hindsight, now that I've done the research on church history, yeah, I recognize every minute error that Ballard or Sidney or other Mormons throw at me. And it gets me really angry and upset, because I know that the church leaders are specifically wording it in such a manner so as to deceive Mormons. And so when I was going over downloading the videos for Russell of conference, I noticed a distinctive pattern. That the 70 were focused more on the gospel. You know, even though they would perpetuate their own gospel, nonetheless they were religious minded in their talks and conference. But the apostles, even though they were using religious rituals, the particular talks, for the most percentage, were about things that would require Mormons to pay the church. Temples, missions, even outright tithing and direct finances to the church. And that became more disturbing, as I saw that once they became apostles, they were no longer concerned about the religious welfare of Mormonism. That they were now trying to deceive, flatter, pacify Mormons so that they would pay. And that's horrifying. And that's it for that. No talk about religion for Smith Sr. Nothing. They talk about it for Samuel II, and in an obituary, oh, he was a good Christian. Well, everybody had to say they were a good Christian. And Samuel II, you know, he was loyal to a relative who needed help convincing the Salem court for the Salem witch trials that his wife and the other women who he didn't like needed to be punished as witches in that trial. And they don't talk about that, but yeah, Smith Sr. was a Congregationalist. And if you don't understand, you're then going to be led to believe that Smith Sr. was anti-religious. There is a female who published a book about the religious morality of Lucy Mack. That she was the glue that held the family together. That Joseph Smith Sr. was a drunkard and a bum who couldn't maintain a job. And that he was anti-religion, but he allowed his wife to be religious. Again, that woman is deceived and is now perpetuating her deception, because she interpreted the missed information according to her feminist viewpoint. And even though she still thinks that she's supporting the church, Lucy Mack was the religious influence on Joseph Smith. She's missed it. No, because Senior, Joseph was a daddy's boy, not a mama's boy. And if you don't understand that, you're going to be incorrect in whatever you believe. You can claim all the believing blood you want. It's false. And so, as I've been telling you guys, the earliest visions were not visions, they're coded messaging telling us that William Morgan had come to Canandaigua and was talking to Smith Sr. And therefore it appears as Junior knows about much of this, that he went with his father to attend the meetings in Canandaigua, rather than going with Hiram to Palmyra to attend the Freemason meetings in Palmyra. And this seems to be why Senior had Junior be the front person for the organization. But Senior was the one who orchestrated all of it. The publication of the book, the coded messaging, the deal with Sidney Rigdon. And Joseph was directly involved. And that explains why Hiram isn't the spokesperson, but is given prominence. Hiram is not understood as being a part of the translation process, other than I think they say that he briefly did it along with Joseph's wife. No. It was Oliver Cowdery. They had to reestablish the template, because William Morgan's template can no longer be used. They were compromised because of Martin Harris. And if you're thinking in terms of maliciousness, again, it's because I'm not able to go on for hours to explain further details. Now, like I said earlier, Smiths are heroes. They're the good guys. American patriots who saved America. Whereas, where are the Mormons today saving America? Instead, we had Chris Stewart, Sean Reyes, who supported this Texas coup d'etat, which, thank God, the Supreme Court, with Trump's last-minute Hail Mary appointment, specifically designed to overturn the election, failed. But Trump's still got other things he's going to do. He cannot leave. If he leaves, he goes to prison for the rest of his life, unless he flees the country. He has got... It's over 60 investigations with the Southern District of New York alone. Then there's other lawsuits. There are lawsuits waiting for him for his presidency. Because we're all thinking that Mueller didn't find any collusion with Russia. No, that's not what Mueller said. He said he did find something, but he can't investigate it because Trump is president, and the Department of Justice, thanks to Spiro Agnew, vice president of Nixon, that whole scandal back then resulted in the Department of Justice policy: we don't investigate a president. And so he didn't follow the money. He didn't investigate. And so when Don Jr. says, I'm not going to come in and speak with you, Oh, okay, I guess there's nothing we can do. Yes, there is. We know Trump submitted answers to questions on paper. And we know he perjured himself. And so there's tons of crimes that Trump knows he is in jeopardy of. And so he can't just pardon himself because it doesn't work for state. He can pardon himself for presidential acts, but he can't do it himself. He would have to quit, have Pence take over as president, and then have Pence pardon him? That's the only way Trump is going to get pardoned. Although I'm concerned about Biden and a couple of things there. But the reason why I talk about the current crisis is because of the real church history. Joseph Smith Sr. saved America and knew when they would come back. They put the date in the Book of Mormon in the first chapter because they have Lehi have a dream, and he sees a sign in the heavens, and it's exactly the same sign as Revelation chapter 12. And if you are learning anything about astronomy, with all the signs in the heavens for these latter days that are getting astronomers all excited that people are now paying attention to astronomy, which means that they can get more grants and more people paying to come visit them and all this stuff. But it's a precise, hard science. And as a hard science, it's not fake news. We know dates. They knew when the total solar eclipse would occur on the 21st of August 2017. They know when the next one. Well, there's actually two. They know them all. They know where they're going to occur. And so they know about Jupiter and Saturn being 800 years since it last occurred like this. Because it's a hard science. It's not a pseudoscience like a psychology. And the Smiths knew. Their Holiness to the Lord parchment means that Smith was involved in observing the movements of the heavens. He was an astronomer. Just not a technical doctor astronomer. But he was interested in astronomy. And he was paying attention. And when Joseph Smith received the plates, there was a sign in the heavens. John Taylor, was it John Taylor? No, Heber C. Kimball claims that he saw a sign in the heavens that night. His was a lie, but the Smiths did see something in the heavens that night. But it's encoded. They don't say, and we saw the heavens opened, and a sign appeared, and we knew it was time to get the plates. No, they don't say it that way. And so, it's very frustrating as a Mormon, knowing the truth. I mean, knowing doctrinal truth and hearing other Mormons speak falsehood, and going through experiencing whether I correct them or whether I just keep silent and let them continue to believe falsely. I've had to deal with that during all this time. And Same with church history, and same with anything, Mormonism. You know, the concept of, oh, are we allowed to drink Mountain Dew? What is the definition of pornography? And is it bad? No, there's nothing wrong. There's no such thing as pornography. It was evangelicals who created it, who made it a big deal, who shamed women and their bodies. Evangelicals were the first body shamers. But no, Travis, it's addictive and it destroys families. No, it doesn't. If a wife, I'm not going into it. Different topic. So, yeah, that's what's going on in Topsfield as the church hinge points away from Joseph Smith. But I did want to point out one more thing that I just remembered. It's an obelisk. The monument is an obelisk, pointing up. Now pay attention to the inverted pentagram on the Salt Lake Temple. It's an obelisk too, pointing down. And of course Ballard does not make that connection. He would never dare bring that up.